Hello guys, welcome back. So in this episode we are going to check out how we could set multiple roles for a user. So in the last episode we are working with roles, okay, so how we set roles. Okay, so in this episode we are going to go through services, okay. So in the last episode that's only about a single role, but in this episode it's about multiple services, okay. So before we get into the episode, I just wanted to show you the few offline code that I have written. The first one here is our routes. Okay, in the routes I just created a new route called set services. Okay, so it's gonna take and it's gonna call a function called set services. So if you go to the authorize here, the set services function is initialized as follows. Okay, the first thing it's gonna check is if the user has uh, you know logged in actually. So the person who has setting or calling this API has an active session in the server. So I'll check that. And the next thing I'll check is if he has passed the following parameters. One is the username and other one is the services. And finally the services must be an array. Okay. If any of these three fails, I'll just send him this information is not correct. So if their information is correct, I'll check if the username that he's requesting actually existing in my database. If not, I'll just say the provided username is incorrect and I'll just throw him the error, or else we'll just continue. So we'll put our UID in a UID variable and we'll start the code here. So, and one more thing I just had edited here is new method in database. Oops, okay. So it's insert multiple sets. Okay, so this function, this method especially is used to set multiple sets of values at a time for a table. So in the insert, as we know, we'll only set mostly one single set of values, right, in this kind of a structure. So right now I'll set multiple sets of values at a time. So I'll just let you know how and why we are going to use that in a bit. So just remember that there is a function already in the database framework it is going to do. So if you want to check if you're working, you could check this out. Okay, so coming back to authorize here, so we'll start the code here. So before that, let's go to database. Okay, so in the database, if you go to our services table here, so user is going to send us the IDs. Okay, so I assume I'll send him the services available and he's going to send me the services IDs. Okay, so I'll just assume these are the service IDs he's gonna send me. So based on that I'll operate. So in the postman I already wrote a kind of a structure. So the username is going to be some username, it is a text. I'll get the UID by myself, whereas services, assuming he'll be sending me the IDs of the services. Okay, so now we need to start the code, right? The first thing I'll make sure is if the ID has a service. In case if there is no service on that ID, I'll just throw the error directly to him. Okay, so before we just check these IDs directly, we'll just create the actual statements. Okay, so yeah, in the last episode we are setting the roles for this roles underscore users underscore map. So right now instead of roles we're mapping services. So with the services we also need to map the user ID, and is on is not required, and a created by and is active. So is active is by default is activating a true value. I hope, yep, it's taking a true value by default. So we need not touch is active too. So we need to check created by and user ID and the service ID. So these are the values we need to send from our side to create the services. Since services is an array, you could create that in a direct way. Okay, so I'll create a for loop here. Dollar I equal to 0 semicolon dollar I is less than array. Oops, yep. So I need to run this loop so I could see if every service is already in database. In case any of the service doesn't exist, I'll just return the service doesn't exist. Okay, so for that I'll use the count method here, and I'll say dollar request of services, dollar I plus plus dollar. You close the parentheses right there. Yeah, that's good. So now I'll just go through the loop. So it's an array. So first thing I need to make a query. So it's a simple read simple just like this. So only thing is I'll send the UID to make sure there is that particular data. Okay, so yeah. So blog underscore users, instead of that I'll send to services. So I'll be sending this service underscore ID. So it's that, right? Yep. So let me show. So yeah, the service underscore ID, and I'll just requesting that particular paste request. So I'll just use this of $I. Okay. So if there is a error, I'll just stop here, and I'll just say provided service doesn't exist. So I'll just say it's an error in services. Yep. So if their length is less than 1, okay. So since service IDs are unique in the database, we'll be fine with that. Okay. So if there is no error, we'll not do any kind of a return here. So we'll be still fine here. So what we could do here is uh, we'll create a kind of a string. Okay. So it's a kind of simple like this. Okay. So I need to send a service underscore ID here. Along with that, I need to send the users ID. Along with that, I need to send a created by. Okay, so these are the parameters I need to send to the database so that it could create uh, this stuff, right? So yep, let's go. So I'll create here a string called dollar values. Okay, it's an array since I need to pass an array to that. Yep. Okay, so I'll just save dollar values. Okay, of I'll use this thing and dollar I. So it's a key value based pair one, so I'll just do that. Okay, so dollar I equal to, and I need to put this as a string in there, as simple as a string, just like that. So yeah, double quotes and the double quotes. Yep. So now created by is nothing but my dollar UID. So that's good. Not actually dollar UID, it's a sessions UID. It's actually the person who has logged in. So yeah, I need to take that from here, and yeah, I need to put down it here. So second concatenation. Okay, so here it's a dollar UID. Okay, we need to put a single quotes here. So I have to make sure everything is good. Yeah. So and the service ID also need to be in single quotes. Now service ID can be retrieved from this thing. Okay, so I'll just get that from here, put it there. So we need to use the concatenation because it's an array. It's better to use that, so it doesn't want to break create a really problematic. Okay, there we go. I'll be creating that thing, so it's a comment. Okay, yeah. So when we are out of that, when we get out of the loop, in case any service doesn't exist, we'll just break the loop, send the user that there is something problem with the services. In case every service is a good ID, I mean it's a good ID. Oops, okay, sorry. So it's a good ID, then I'll be creating this string or an array, so we could start creating that actual query. So now we need to send our actual method. I mean this time we need to call this method here instead of the other ones. Okay, it's not the insert simple this time. Okay, so last time we had created, yeah, let me show you. Yeah, so here we just use insert simple. This time we'll be using multiples. Okay, so yeah, let me write it instead of copying it. It will be really good. So dollar result equal to dollar this db, and this it's multiples. Yeah. So now first the table name, right? So we already had the table name. I'll just get that. Okay, the table name is blog underscore roles underscore services underscore maps. Okay, so that's the table name. I'll give it here. So next we need to mention the columns that we wanted to use. So here we are using a service underscore id, user underscore id, and created by. Okay, so I'll put them service underscore id, comma, user underscore the id, and finally created by. Yeah. So finally I'll pass the array that I have used, I mean the associated arrays. I'll say it's a values. Okay, so now it's time to handle this error. Okay, so in case the query fails, we need to capture that thing in our query error here. Okay, so and also send the response data. Yeah. So already just did that. Okay, response. So the when response is nothing but the username along with the services it had. Okay, let me save that and send the request using Postman. Yep, so the Postman sends username and array of services of 3 and 4. So user need to map with that. Okay, let's click send. Yep, so it just worked out. So I got the data. So let's go and check the database. So click that. Yeah, you could see now the new service IDs 3 and 4 has been created for the user ID 4 who is admin 5, and it was created by the user called admin. So I'll just do again. So what if I send the same data once again? I'm trying to assign the same services again. So it just throws me an error. It's a 400 request. It's a bad request. So the user doesn't know what just happened actually. So the thing happened here actually is the table schema. The schema doesn't let you to insert the data. So I'll just print that error here for you so you could know what just happened. Okay, dollar result. Okay, I'll just use the print underscore r so it will be little good. Yeah. So yeah, let's go to Postman and send. So you could see it says duplicate entry. Okay, here duplicate entry 341 key service ID. Yeah, so that's because the schema, as I said, it's a schema. So schema make sure here you could see so service ID, user ID, and is active. So these three are unique combinations. So you cannot have the three values same at a time. So for a record, so if you only can disable the is active button, so then you could. So I'll just show you. So here if I set this is active to 0, okay, assuming I remove these services for this, okay, for this user, okay, I just remove those services and now I want to give him the services once again. So if I click send now, you'll see this, it just worked right now it worked. And if you check the database, you'll see two more records is created, but this time these are active. So that's because we are maintaining a log, so we'll know in case the user has done something wrong in the blog and you removed him and someone gave him the permissions back, you'll know it who actually gave him or what just happening inside the database. So whenever you are removing, so it's a kind of a log. So just an example I'm doing this, so it's actually not required if you're not interested. So it's up to you if you want to use it. So since I want to make sure that every log stays in my database, I'm just doing it. Okay, so that's it for this episode, guys. I'll be meeting you in the next episode with another content. Bye bye, peace out.